Hi, everybody. My name's Jasmine Grimes. I am a board member of PRUDE, and I'm really excited to be here today. So, thank you all for braving the cold weather to make it here. This is definitely a really exciting and special event. So, I did just want to share my story with you. So, I was born in St. John in uh, well, we'll leave it there. So I think I've been in a few decades now. So, so I was born in a biracial family. So my mom is white, and she's here today. So thank you for coming. And my father is African American. So St. John was a different time when I was growing up. An event like this today probably wouldn't be happening when I was growing up. Um, when I was in elementary school, I think there was maybe myself, my brother, who's also here today, and, one other kid that was black. So it was just really different, but also for my classmates, it was really different having somebody different in their classroom. Like, there was one time I even had somebody that said, I can't hang around with you because you're black. That happened in first grade. It also happened again when I was in grade 12. So, 13 or 12 years later, it still was happening that, classmates didn't understand the difference and that we were all people. So, growing up like that definitely did play a toll. Sometimes you really just didn't know, what identity you wanted to take on. If you actually wanted to, accept who you were, but deal with racism or, people that just thought that because you're black, you must like fried chicken, or you're going to grow up to be, or you must like rap music, you must like watermelon, things like that. That was often what my classmates thought. And if you didn't fall into those stereotypes, people would just look at you a certain way. And it was just kind of both ways for me growing up, being, I wasn't white sometimes, or I wasn't white. So, the white kids didn't really know how to deal with that. But also, too, not being full black, that often was, something that came up that, you don't look black or you don't look fully black, you must not be black. So, it's interesting because people forget that black comes in all shades, and that's something that we need to remember. As I continued growing up, things didn't really change that much. Racism continued. I watched my younger brothers deal with racism frequently when they played sports. It wasn't really until I'd say the last 5 years that I've really noticed a difference in our community. I look at now in the news articles how we've talked about immigration and how many people from different countries have came into St. John. I look at PRUDE and how big PRUDE's grown. I know when I was younger, PRUDE was a place that, people that were dealing with things could go to. Like, I remember my dad told me, always remember PRUDE. They're going to be there for you if you ever need them. So, they're still here now, and I'm really happy to volunteer with PRUDE by being on the board. I was a speaker for International Women's Day, if anybody attended that. So I'm really happy to give back to PRUDE and be here today. And I think something that I really wanted to talk about was the theme of Black History Month this year. So going forward, guided by the past, I think that's something that, we can look at what we've learned from, Black leaders, but I think we also need to think about ourselves and, what we can learn about ourselves from the past and how we can use that going forward. So I know myself, I wasn't sure about my identity. I wasn't, comfortable with, saying sometimes that I was even Black. And now I'm really proud and sharing that and making sure that everybody feels more confident saying, no matter what race you are, everybody feels more confident saying and being proud of who they are. So I think something to really look at is looking at your past, overcoming, those feelings you may have or those demons that you have, and really accepting who you are and, helping others with that. Being a mentor, being kind to people, things like that are really just going to help us go forward. And we still have a long way to go. I look at, we had a black president in the US, but, we need a black minister or prime minister in Canada, right? So there's still, a long way to go, more black doctors, lawyers, teachers, we really want to make sure that the children are coming up, the youth feel comfortable, and, it's never too late for anybody else to feel more comfortable with who they are. So thank you again, Sherry, for inviting me to speak today. I'm really excited about this, and just remember to be kind and, learn from your past mistakes, or not mistakes, but even your past feelings to go forward. Great, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hi, happy Black History Month. Okay, can everybody hear me now? All right. Okay, I'm a little taller. Yeah, that's better. Yeah. Okay. Hello. I'm really honored to be here today. When I was asked to speak, I'm like, what am I going to talk about? I don't know what to talk about. Well, I'm going to start with saying my name. My full name is Chika Olive Ozemena. And I'm originally from Nigeria, from the eastern part of Nigeria. So I'm an original Igbo girl. That's what we call our tribe. When people ask me where is home, I tend to say Nigeria. But something happened very recently. I traveled to visit my brother, and in a conversation, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go home tomorrow," and he had this surprised look on his face, like, "You're going to Nigeria?" I said, "No, home is St. John. I'm going home." And then it dawned on me that St. John has become my home. So yes, I have two homes, Nigeria and St. John. A little bit of a background, how I came to St. John. I moved to the US in 2014 to go to school. And after that, I said I wanted to do an MBA program. And I looked around, I wanted a cheap MBA program. And then a program that wouldn't take me as long as it would normally take to complete an MBA program, and St. John popped up. I said, where is St. John? I've never heard of this city before. Well, in fall 2015, I found myself in a little St. John, New Brunswick. Actually, my friends were like, is this St. John or St. John's? There's a weird at 30 minutes different. I said, well, that's St. John's, not St. John. So I got here, and my first interaction with a black person, actually a Nigerian, was at a bank. And I was so blown away because I was like, what are you even doing here? Nobody knows the city. How are you here? Well, suffice to say that he told me his experience and where he came from and how long he's been in St. John. At that time, in 2015, he had been in St. John for more than 8 years. I could not believe it. And he was working in a bank. So we got talking, and he told me about St. John, how St. John is little and everybody knows everybody, but that is the community. That is that sense of belonging you have living in a small community like this. And of course, my MBA program and my MBA classmates became my friend and helped me settle in St. John. Being in St. John has it has been a good experience, even though there has been some negative experience being a black person. I mean, I don't hide it. I'm black. It, it is what it is, you know. So when I go out and people say, "Oh, where are you from?" The first thing I say is, "I'm from St. John," and they go, "Where are you originally from?" I said, "Well, I moved from the US," and they will keep asking. I said, "Okay, I'm Nigerian, but I'm African and I'm Nigerian." And they don't understand the difference between Africa and my country. And what I find in these experiences and conversations, it's that it's not about who I am at the end of the day, because I'm in a community where it could be scary to be a black person. It could be nerve-wracking to, speak in the accent that you have, because you are looked at differently. You are like, "Oh, what are you? Where are you from?" But what I find in those interactions and conversation is that it's a teachable moment for me, because it has been an impactful experience. Because then people that do not know where I am from or who I am, I have that opportunity to explain and teach them and tell them the difference of being a black person, and how my hair is not always long all the time, and how if I go home I might decide to wear a wig and then it becomes long, or I decide to use brush and then it becomes a dreadlock. Uh, so these are the different interactions and education that I have found that have impacted me, and of course impacted the people that I've interacted with, because at the end of the day we are all human beings and people don't know so much. And yes, people have had negative experiences, people have had bad things happen to them. What I say in those situations will be, those are the things you look at. You take the positives out of that and turn that around. Because at the end of the day, if you're angry and bitter as a black person because of the experiences you've had, how is that affecting your next experience? How would that affect the people or impact the people that are coming behind you? So we need to leave that experience, example of inclusiveness. We have to have that hope that things are changing. St. John in 2015 is not St. John I know today. I can tell you that. And I work with YMCA and we work in settlement services, and I can see that growth, and I can see how St. John is evolving, and we continue to evolve. So what I say here today, that this is a very fulfilling moment for me, because I may not have experienced some of the negative things that people have experienced, because I am black as it is. You don't have to think about it. Once you see me as a black person. So I wear it. I'm very proud about it. And I don't put myself in a position where I have to defend it. So what I tell people is, educate people. People don't know any better. People don't know. So the more you teach people, the more you share your experiences, the more you talk about your culture or where you are from, people get to know and appreciate who you are. And that's what we need, because we need this community to be enriched with different culture, with different values and different norms and different people from different places. And it is our responsibility. So I'm going to leave this stage today saying that all of us here, whether you're black, you're brown, you're white, you're Asian, whatever you are, it's our responsibility to be inclusive, to include everybody, to make sure that everybody feels that welcoming. We are all welcoming. We all belong here. We all have that sense of belonging. So thank you for listening to me, and I hope that I made some points here, and that we enjoy this Black History Month, because there's a whole lot about other people that we don't even know. But through this interaction and conversations that we are having, we'll get to know that and share in that experiences. Thank you.
Hi. Hi. I'm Astrid. I'm 16. I go to Harborview High School, and I've been living in St. John since I was 3, I think. And I'm going to read 2 poems today. And they're just kind of about things I've been through in my life. So, yeah. They put their head on your shoulder, told you to play with their hair. They were gentle, they were sweet, all the while typing, messaging, bashing you, throwing you under the bus, taking your name and destroying him, taking the relationship and destroying it like a wall, knocking it down brick by brick. They broke your heart. not by leaving you, but by keeping you, stringing you along like a fish on a string until the string's wrapped around your throat and you can't breathe. You never loved her. You never needed her. You lusted her, which would have been fine, but you hid your cravings behind walls of lies, behind I love yous and I need yous. You wanted her body. You wanted all the curves and swerves that came with her. You wanted to place your hand in places that were not necessarily yours. You wanted to make them yours. You wanted to use her to throw her away, used and tossed in the trash like a Kleenex. You could have had her, but you got rid of her. And as much as you hurt her, it's still your loss. They said that I was going to have 3 loves in my life, and I thought you were the one that taught me how to love. I didn't think you were the love that broke me, the one that taught me how to feel heartbreak, the one that taught me how to pick myself up and fix the broken pieces that you left behind. The one that reminded me that I have to love myself, that my self-worth doesn't rely on your love, and that no matter how much you break me and leave me and hurt me, I will be okay. Thank you. I have 2 options. 1, let your words take me, whisk me away, a waterfall pulling me down, keeping my head under the current, taking me out, filling my lungs with water, swirling in through the icy cold water, wrapping my body. Jack Frost's kiss of death on my forehead, an icy kiss of cold, cold death. The water used to fill my ears, whooshing and swirling and crashing loudly, so loud that it encompasses my every move, my every thought. The water in my ears prohibits me from swimming because when I try to move, it was your words whispered in my ears, making me freeze. 2, I learn how to swim. I learn not to let the water take over. I learn how to become a flaming ball, boiling the water, burning your words like coal in a fire, rising above, learning to do more than to swim, but to fly. I choose to fly. I choose to fly higher onto clouds where your words are too heavy to reach. I choose to soar. I choose to evade the kiss of Jack Frost and find comfort in the words of another. Words of someone so strong, so beautiful, so worthy, so valid. The words of me. Thank you.
Have you ever asked yourself the following questions? Does the color of my skin, my hair, my size, or something about my appearance make other people feel uncomfortable? This is a question I have asked myself the last few years as I embraced myself fully on my journey of self-acceptance. Does my darkness, the color of my skin, my natural hair, my size, or something about the way that I look make other people feel uncomfortable? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Kathy Young. I own and operate a health and wellness studio for self-conscious women in St. John called Misfit Studio. I am a self-acceptance coach and certified group fitness instructor and certified Pound Pro cardio drumming instructor. In 2016, I brought a rock awesome cardio drumming class to St. John called Pound Fit that has been life-changing for me. Pound has been the stepping stone that allowed me to fully embrace myself and for the first time in my life, feel comfortable in my own skin. I'd like to take a moment and share a little piece of my journey and some of my thoughts with you. My grandparents were Melita and Harold Young. I am the youngest of Marglin and Lewis Young, and out of my 4 siblings, I am the one that struggled to find my place as a person of mixed blood in society. I've never really quite known where I fit in. I've often had people of color or Caucasian people say things to me like, You act or you talk white. I never knew what to say back to people that made those comments. But as I stand here before you now, I know exactly what I would say to people making such comments. To me, being black is not an act, it's who I am. It doesn't matter how you walk, how you talk, or what other blood lines run through my veins. I am still a strong black queen. As a woman of size in the health and fitness industry, I felt the need to build myself up and make myself stronger. I believe in order to make myself stronger, I need to know where I come from. And I realize I have no idea where I come from. I feel disconnected from my history and the trailblazers that led the foundation for the freedom we experience today. The information is there for us to access, but I don't think a lot of us in the black community are sharing our tragic but beautiful history within our own families from one generation to the next. We've all felt the weight of judgment on our skin, every single one of us. So I'm going to invite you, anyone who is brave enough, to release the weight of judgment in a fun way and leave it on the floor, and let's inhale and breathe in forgiveness. We've come so far as a diverse and inclusive community. Let's continue to be an example in St. John of acceptance for all people.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicholas Mulumba. I'm from Congo, DRC. I came here in Canada in 2014. I came here as refugees, and we are 7 in my family, my mom and 3 brothers and 2 sisters. So I work with Sherry, and I do most of the things, present myself about our culture back home, and I love doing it. So it gave me some good experience talking to people. Like the first time I met with her, so I didn't know even hi, good morning in English, but I pushed myself and learned more and more English. And then first of all, my brother used to work with her. He was doing the same thing, the presentation stuff, kind of like that. And then sometimes I used to go with my brother, and Sherry came to pick us up. And then I see how my brother presents because he was a little bit good in English. And then I forced myself. Sometimes Sherry was talking to me. I don't understand what she's saying, but I keep pushing myself harder and harder and learn more and more. So in 2017, because we are French, we are from Congo, as you know, is French countries. And then my mom decided to move to Montreal, and then I didn't want to move, but because I didn't have no choice, and then we moved together to Montreal, and then stayed there for 1 year. And I didn't like the place. I actually like St. John because most of people are very, very nice, are very, very welcome. Anytime for example, you go to the store, they're trying to open the door for you, and then everybody here always say thank you, thank you, thank you. But when I was in Montreal, most of the time, like there's nothing like that. Everybody is busy with their life. So and I was like, okay, I think now is good time for me to go back to St. John, and then learn more English and see if I can find a job. So that's the reason why I decided to come back here. And then when I get here, I try to find a couple friends, good friends, crazy friends, just for me to get to learn English. And I thank God I actually make it. And like right now, I can feel comfortable talking to you, and what you are saying, I can try to understand, and then you can understand even a little bit what I say. Maybe for my accents, I can talk like you, but I can try. Yeah, so get back here in 2017 and apply for a job, and then I thank God I was able to find CBI. CBI Home Health is we support autism. We work with people in their house like a home support worker. So that's what I do for now. I've been working there for 3 years now, and I thank God they never fire me. So I always, I always try to do a better job, and then just to show them that is what I like. Like I like helping people, and I love what I'm doing it. And also, I know some people here don't know, and I went to YMCA. I did a lunch skill, something like that. And then my teacher was Olivia right here. And I thank you too, because she teach me some of the things too that I didn't know about the culture, country too as well. Even I knew a little bit, but she even added more things, and I thank her for that. And thank you everyone so for listening to me. So that's all I can share with you. Oh, I forget one thing. So yo, that's very very good news right now. So in 2018, so because I was able to work and have a little bit a good life, not not too good, but a little bit. And then I was able, to buy a car, and and I was going to church, and I fell in love with Nigerian girl, and then I thank God. So she is a Christian, and then I am too, but I wasn't that serious about God stuff. But she is the one who taught me a lot of things about reading the Bible, about being a good guy. I was a good guy, but right now I'm a great guy. So, so yeah, she was telling me to go to church every Sunday, and I thank God right now I do go to church and sing at church sometimes too as well. And we stayed together for 1 year and a half, and then we get married in last year in March 29th, March last year. Yeah, yeah, I can't forget. It's March 29th last year, and then God is wonderful, and then we get a child. Now we have a baby boy. Now he's 5 months now, and so I thank God for that. Yeah, yeah, I'm a new daddy right now, so new daddy in town. Yeah, so that's all I can share with you for now, and thank you very much.
Hi, ladies. Hello, ladies. Hi, ladies. Isn't that rude? You walk into a room and you say hi, and nobody. Well, we've heard some interesting stories, and unfortunately for you, uh, someone's coming that hasn't arrived yet. And so as a filler, I was telling somebody earlier that when you do these things, all kinds of things can go wrong. People will be delayed, people won't show up, or they'll show up late. And the best you can do is try to be fluid, and keep in your mind, it's a free event. It's a free event. It's a free event. So, I thought, well, while you're here, let's do something rather interactive. So, at the moment, what I need from you is to go, like waves, you know, like waves. Come on. See, now I want to hear waves, you know, like a boat. A boat is going. Yeah, we're all on the boat. See, because they're bringing us over here to Canada. Because we were down there on the slave market. So the Quakers are bringing us. Okay, good. So now when I point to you, we do what? Very good. This is entitled, it's supposed to be done to music, but anyway. They left not knowing what lay before them, except the wide expanse of the blue ocean, storms, gales, and for many, terrible bouts of seasickness. They rode on the faith of the Quakers, the first wave, the first 1,000, the first black loyalists. The waves crested and the seas rolled. The tall ships rode high on the waves, the white spray splashing against the hull of the ships. 1783 was the departure of the first 1,000 of the black loyalists. The waves crested and the seas rolled. Ooh. They knew nothing of nautical miles, celestial navigation, or how to tell direction under the stars as they rode out into the deep blue seas. They rode on the faith of the Quakers, the first wave of the black loyalists, still loyal to the king. The waves crested and the seas rolled. They rode for their independence. They rode out of bondage. Like the salty taste of the ocean, they could smell and taste the fresh flavor of freedom. The waves crested and the seas rolled. As the waves lapped alongside of the hulls of the ships, the sails billowed in the bright morning sun. The moon and the night tides carried them further and further along, further out to seas. The first wave that rode on the faith and the promise of the Quakers, the first 1,000 of the black loyalists. The waves crested and the seas rolled. The waves crested and the seas rolled. The waves crested and the seas, in time, seas rolled. They would reach a new place called Canada, a new place to begin again, a new place to call home. But until then, for them, the waves crested and the seas rolled. The waves crested and the seas rolled until they reached the St. John Harbor, their new place they could call home. Oh, by the way, in case you didn't notice, that's my daughter. Does she look like me? No? Okay. All right. I'll do this. I have this, because we're into this It's Black History kind of month, and it's really a multicultural kind of thing. And because we're proud of where we live, this is entitled The Fire. It will come, the burning, the heat of the city of St. John. At first, it will lick at its heels, then become all consuming. The fire will raise higher. It hasn't arrived yet completely, but it will come. It smolders now, slowly, but it will come, and the fires will burn, passions will ignite, the city will flame and rise above. Well, after the burning and the fire, the city in St. John will be greatly admired. Are, are we there yet? Oh, okay. You know, we were just listening to someone that explained that he wasn't from here, that he was from the Congo. I'm from New York. My daughter's Canadian. We all come from someplace. We may not be indigenous, but we embrace you the way the sun embraces us. Though many of us come from afar, we collectively shower on you words that glow because you've accepted us, Canada. You've allowed us to make Canada our new home. We embrace you with open arms that we may be fruitful and treat you as if you were our very own. We may not be indigenous, born to this land of the free, but our loyalty to you will forever be steadfast and unwavering. We may not speak with the same language, our customs may be strange, but we yearn to be fully included. Given time, we shall learn. You will see, Canada, and I lost my place. We may not be indigenous. Your investment will have a good return. We embrace you. Your national anthem has become ours. Our hope is that we can all stand together, bright as the northern star. We embrace you, Canada, and thank you for embracing us. Most of all, thank you, Canada, for giving us your trust. Thank you. I filibustered long enough. You know, of course, this evening there will be great entertainment upstairs. We have the Sanctified Brothers. We have Debbie Ashade and Richard Kidd and Brent Mason. And is this the author back here? Ah, I'm leaving now.
Oh, this is fine. Is that okay? Yeah. I think so. I guess you guys will let me know if you can hear me or not. Should I do a testing 1, 2, 3? Good evening. Can everyone hear me? You can hear me in the back. Two young brothers back there. I see you. You look like twins. You look good. Right there, I see you. So everyone can hear me for sure. Thank you for having me here in St. John. As you can see, I took it so seriously, I went out and bought a jacket. It says St. John, New Brunswick, Canada. So this is cool. My wife said, "Are you representing the Raptors?" No. St. John, thank you for having me, and I hope this is worth your while. I'm going to read from my novel, Exile Blues. And smart guy. Chicago, fall 1966. The 1966 fall semester had started, and Prez was already knee-deep in research and writing. There were days when he felt it was like quicksand. He knew it was because he was spreading himself too thin. He was organizing on the west side, so frequently he wondered if he should move there. It would save a lot of travel time, but he would miss the lake, and he really liked Hyde Park. More importantly, he liked living a short walk from Eckert Hall, whose second floor library he used so much he would wake up in the middle of the night thinking he was still there. One rainy evening, as he bounded out the library door and jumped over a puddle of water, a girl shouted in a thick British accent, "Excuse me, hey, can you help me?" She was standing right in the puddle, her long toes going up and down. She held a pair of buffalo sandals in one hand and a sheaf of papers tied with cord in another. Her wafer-thin body looked frail under the lumberjack shirt she wore. Prez wondered how she kept her baggy, torn bell-bottoms from falling off her hips. Her little pink mouth was turned up at the corners in a perpetual smile, and the whites of her brown eyes reminded Prez of the Cleary marbles he and his boyhood friends would hoard, but never expose to the abuses of an actual game of marbles. Is this Eckert Hall, where J. Ernest Wilkins studied? Yes, and yes. Terse, aren't you? But didn't everybody know about the 13-year-old African-American math prodigy who entered the University of Chicago at the age of 13, received his PhD in mathematics at the age of 19, and later worked on the Manhattan Project? No, I have to be somewhere. Maybe I'll see you later. The very next day, his professor made a special request that he mentor 3 exchange students from England. Prez agreed to meet them at a place called the Soul Tavern later that evening so that they could get better acquainted. Just as he rounded the corner up the street from the tavern, he noticed 2 white men sitting in a dark gray 4-door sedan. They were parked across the street from the tavern. Prez could hear the squelch of a 2-way radio. He paused and leaned against a tree and watched. The fellow on the passenger side got out and opened the trunk. He took off his trench coat and threw it in. He put on a varsity jacket and a baseball cap. Next, he crossed the street and went into the tavern. Then he came back out and leaned against the fender. Soon after, a young white guy came out and they walked a few paces down the street and talked for a few moments, at times heatedly. The other guy in the baseball cap opened the trunk and pulled out a dark green rucksack. He tried to hand it to the younger guy, but he wouldn't take it. They had a heated exchange. Then the younger guy snatched the backpack from the older guy's hand and went back into the tavern. The fellow in the baseball cap got back into the car, which then drove off. Prez waited a few minutes trying to make sense of what he had just witnessed before going into the tavern to look for a black girl with a purple scarf tied around her forehead. She was seated at a booth and rose to wave Prez. That was odd, he thought, as he went over to meet Jenny, called me JB, Broadwell. Percival, everyone calls him Percy, Longstreet. And Elizabeth, please call her Lizzie Beckert. I'm Preston Downs. So that's your name, rude boy, said Lizard. Better than Mr. Terse, he laughed. What's going on, asked Jenny. You two behaving like you know each other. Soon, said Lizzie. They all began to talk in some detail about what they had aspired to accomplish that summer and how they hoped to make a difference when they returned home. Press promised to do what he could to acclimatize them to their new environs. All the while his foot was busy, feeling around under the table for the black backpack. There was something hard in it. Jenny leaned on Percy's shoulder. I think I still have jet lag, Percy stroked her face and her hair. From his shirt pocket, he pulled out a joint. This will help. Not in here, man. If you see the cops, throw it away, cautioned Pers. Let's get back to the room. I'm going to stay and talk with Preston here, said Lizzie. Everyone calls me Press, but I like Preston. There's nothing you can do about that. May I compliment you on your black velour jacket? It really looks good on you. Thank you. It's my favorite crinkly, comfy, dressy jacket. They talked so much that midnight crept up on them. Okay, said Lizzie. Your girl is in Washington, but you're not engaged. Correct. Well, I have a guy back in London, but I asked myself, suppose the world we knew was coming to an end. Here, right now, are you and me, the perfect pair. Do we spend our last night alive together or not? That's such a crazy-ass question, Liz. You're really nuts. He took her home. Chicago, August 1966. It was during a sweltering summer's morning jog around Washington Park that he noticed the police had shiny new blue and white 1967 Chevrolet Biscaynes. One sat at 59th Street. He pretended not to see it, but he didn't pretend that he didn't see the two bricks sitting on a picnic table, watching him go around and round. They both wore do-rags around their processed hair, black nylon athletic shirts, green khakis, and black combat boots. On his fifth lap around his jogging route, Press stopped and walked over to them. One was twirling a toothpick in his mouth with his tongue. The other was hunched over, cleaning under his fingernails with a switchblade. How you soul brothers doing, asked Press. Switchblade kept concentrating on his manicure. Toothpick, whose locked eyes with Prez the instant Prez stopped running, said, how you know we soul brothers? I don't know, something tells me I got a feeling, I get these feelings about things and I'm always right. I'd hate to be wrong. What about y'all? Would you hate that I was wrong? Switchblade snickered and kept attending to his fingernails. Nigga, you real funny. He closed his knife and stuck it in his pocket. Then he stood up, but not just any old standing up. The motion started from somewhere in his lower back and rolled up to his shoulders, which lifted his butt off the tabletop. Then he went back down to his thighs, which stretched his legs and torso, leaving only his neck and head raised. He looked down at Prez and offered a hand. I'm LD Strickmore. And I'm Prez. Prez gave his hand a hearty shake. Then he turned toward Toothpick, took his hand and shook it. Yeah, man, said Toothpick. I'm his younger brother, Kelly. They call me Kel Mel, 'cause Kel likes to be mellow. You dig it? Women and weed. Live life until the shit goes down. Then we soldiers like now. We on guard duty. Press frowned, an eyebrow raised. He theatrically tilted his head. Is it pro or anti? And I don't mean anti like laying your money down in the pot before you start gambling, though you may be thinking there's a game going on right here now. Are you here in a pro or anti mode? They looked at each other. Kelmel said, "What the fuck you talking about, man? I didn't understand nothing you just said." "You said y'all are soldiers on call on guard duty." "Yeah," said LD, "that's right. We got the scars to prove it." He pulled up his shirt to reveal several round scar tissue covered holes and a long scar with obvious stitch marks running its length. Minh Than Road, Vietnam. Then Kelmel pulled up his shirt to reveal almost identical wounds. 67th and Stony Island, Chicago, USA. So what the fuck you want to know now? Are you following orders to protect something or to prevent something? Are you here for something or against something, said Prez. Uncle sent us over here to make sure the cops don't bust caps in your ass. We respect your presence around here. Uncle knows you're from D.C. That's the East. He always said a prophet gonna come to us from the East, that he'll be smart, fearless, and wise. He heard you speak about Malcolm X, that important question, whether socialism is good for black folks. He was impressed. How do you know I'm fearless? You knocked the fuck out of Jillian Stew in front of the Regal. They're our boys. You think we don't know about that? It was some years back, but we remember. Uncle says they had it coming. We're not supposed to be acting like thugs no more. We're supposed to be learning how to be soul brothers, black men. Uncle thinks you should be a big brick and show us the way. Those cops sit over behind a couple of cars at 59th Street like they trying to hide, said Prez. Don't they know they can hide but they can't run? They all laughed at that riff off of Joe Lewis's famous quote. Tell Uncle, I really appreciate you all looking out for me, but don't think because I'm out here like I don't care that I don't. I know. This is called exercising my right to be out here whenever I want, and knowing all the cops can do is leave me alone and let me exercise my constitutional rights. Constitutional rights, said Kelmel. Nigga, are you stupid or something? Fucking cops don't care nothing about your constitutional rights. They bust a cap in your ass and leave you bleeding and dying like they did my cousin over at the lagoon a few months ago. Shot that nigga 8 or 9 times. That's 2 cops shooting. Then they holler out, Devil D thing, and go screeching off into the night like we stupid or something. Wait a minute. They're pulling that kind of false flag shit on the west side too? False flag, queried Kelmel. Yeah, the cops cap a dude, then try to make it look like a rival group did it. What kind of shit? Said LD. It don't matter. We already figured it out. There ain't no more Devil D's around here for a long time, man. Years ago, a couple of their boys got shanked up in the joint and came home in boxes. Since then, they all been in with us. But that's old. The cops was acting on old information. We know what they're trying to do. And Uncle thinks they want to bust some caps in your ass and blame it on us. Everybody know what you've been doing over there on the west side with the Cobras and the K-Knights, said Kelmel. Uncle said if you can get Prince Earl and Big Diesel to be at the same place at the same time without trying to kill each other, then you a fucking miracle worker like a prophet. He want to talk with you and he wants you to talk with us. Give us some knowledge. But for now, we're going to watch your back so that you can do your thing, said LD. And we're not bluffing either. Come here. Prez sat between them. LD lifted a familiar-looking backpack that rested on the bench between his feet. He opened the flaps to reveal 2 very large and shiny revolvers. 44 mags, man. This shit punch holes in sheet metal. Then they both lifted their pants legs to reveal smaller pistols tucked into their boots. We ready to protect. Chicago, September 1966, a Friday. Prez became Professor Mackey's teaching assistant. It was a paying gig and it was good money. Prez was determined to use his new position to his advantage. He would be a TA of a different sort. Professor McKay, I have a question. Just when I thought we'd be able to end this session early and get off to some early Friday evening shindigs, along comes our beloved Mr. D.C. Downs, the only teaching assistant I know who dares to ask questions out loud. You all know what that means? So pull out your pillows and don't dare rest your heads on them. They'll be for you to sit on your asses because they will go numb. Now, what is your question? Professor Mackey was concerned that he had not won allies in his attempt to keep Prez quiet because no one uttered a sound. The professor had to get out of there and meet somebody. Yes, thank you, Professor Mackey. Very quickly, just a couple of questions. How can I find out exactly where the grant money for this program comes from? And number two, we're preparing to take part in that seminar series next week to discuss the effectiveness of the Federal War on Poverty program. I noticed there will be a number of foundations and philanthropic organizations taking part. How can I find out about them? Man, that's going to have to wait until next class. But sir, can't you point me in the direction of the answer for at least one of those questions? I need to fill out the outline for what I'm going to write next. Look, I am meeting somebody very important in about 15 minutes. A go. You dig it? I'm already late. Next week, Downs. The professor gathered up his things and rushed out the door without a further word. That's the first time I recall the professor being the first one out of this lecture hall, said Percy, rising from his seat to stand over Prez. What do you think came over Professor Mackey? Asked J.B. He certainly was in a rush. Maybe he's got a fat black cock, Jones. Is that how you call it over here? Why are you talking like that, J.B. asked Prez. I'm sure Preston knows about the professor had the big black boyfriend. J.B., leave it alone, will you? But I don't think that's what's just happened. It was Prez's question. Then she handed Prez a grocery bag with a cord tied around it. What is this? A present. Open it. It was a rough-hewn brown leather satchel with brass buckles. It belonged to my father. I know you'll put it to good use. I'm touched. I'll treasure it. But okay, folks, we have to be somewhere too, so let's go, I promise. Yes, we know how much you hate going around the loop. We appreciate it, said JB. It's Old Town, actually, and it's for a good cause. We'll also be meeting the people I told you about, the ones that I've been working with. Oh, your dreaded gang members, said Percy. Don't start shaking in your boots, man. They smoke good weed, so be nice and you might get a toke or two, said Prez. They all laughed, ran up the street, waved down a jitney cab, and jumped in. There must be 1 million people here. How do we even get to the front door? Follow me. Prez grabbed Lizzie's hand, Lizzie grabbed JB's hand, and she grabbed the whole of Percy's jacket and pulled him along. Prez pushed the path through the crowd and they went inside. It was jam-packed. Mother Blues was a blues folk rock club that was hosting an evening of anti-war, and radical fare. Prez looked around at the wonderful mix of people who had assembled in that place. There were African Americans looking like black hippies, and white hippies wearing their hair as if they were young Afro-Americans. There were former hardcore gang members trying to behave less hardcore, and suburbanites trying to pretend they were hardcore. There were poetry readings and little impromptu speeches, and there was dancing. The hippie contingent proved to be confounding dance partners. Their way of dancing had no relation to the beat or the music. They just sort of wiggled, shimmied, and let their arms float about in the air. He looked about at the ethnic diversity of the people and knew in his heart how beautiful the world could be. Hey, Brother Downs. Prez turned and saw it was Prince Earl standing there with Big Diesel from the west side. He looked over at the bar and he could see LD and Kel Mel from the south side watching. He motioned them over. This, he thought, is it. Look at us, said Prez. We're here together in peace. We're here together because we love ourselves. We're here together because we are conscious of the fact that together we have the power. The power. You got that right, brother man, somebody said. It's an absolute truth that there can be no black unity without us being at peace with one another. You can never achieve black power without black unity. Right on. Prez turned to see who it was saying this. The fellow was slapping five, shaking hands and greeting everybody. Big Diesel came over to Prez. Preston Downs, meet Gabriel Turner. Brother Gabe, this is Downs. Gabriel Turner grabbed Prez's hand in the new Soul Brother handshake. It's a pleasure to meet you, brother. Heard about you from Big Diesel and Prince Errol. Then he stepped back, crossed his arms, and posed. Some say you a jawbreaker. Some say you a peacemaker. I want to know your brain is no faker. Here we go, thought Prez. He made motions like he was smoothing his clothes. Then he crossed his arms and posed. I see you a man in love with verse. You spout it out with no need to rehearse. As for me, let me give you a sign. He raised his fist in a power salute. I'm in possession of a hard-working mind. Gabriel almost toppled over, laughing. There was laughter all around. Gabriel and Prez hugged. Then they went and sat down at a table with a bunch of guys gathered around. Pardon me, I know your name, but exactly who are you? I'm the chairman of the new organization we're starting called the Black People's Party. Some of the fellows have been telling me about your rap with them. You're saying the same things we sang, the Black People's Party. Your perspective is exactly the same. You know, they assassinated a great man, February last year. Yes, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz. He was a genius in his analysis of the situation we Afro-Americans face in this country. The evolution of his thinking is actually a model of the evolution of black revolutionary thinking. He went from being anti-white to anti-capitalism. He went from being a black nationalist to being an internationalist. He went from advocating for civil rights to advocating for human rights. He was a big presence on the international scene, and he believed that we Afro-Americans can never achieve justice or freedom if we keep relying upon the two-party system of government. Come on, there's no qualitative difference today between a Democrat and a Republican. We need our own party. When he was running around calling white people white devils, the media and the establishment couldn't get enough of him. Then when he started asking the question about whether or not socialism would be good for Afro-Americans, boom, he's gone. Think about that. What are you drinking? I don't drink, but I'll have a root beer. Y'all hear that? Hey, Chi, did you hear that? Come on, man, hand it over. Don't moan and make a face. You owe me $10. Found my twin soul brother right here. He slapped Prez on the back. Chi made a bet with me that I would never find another dude that didn't drink. He turned back to Prez. Carry your bag with you everywhere, I bet. Yep, said Prez. He had the wide strap of his tan leather bag over the back of his chair. He noticed Gabriel was carrying one as well, but his leather bag was black. Armed to the gills, we both are. I know it, said Gabriel. Oh, yeah, said Prez. He raised the flap of his bag and pulled out a worn, leather-bound copy of My Bondage and My Freedom by Frederick Douglass. Damn, is that real leather? Where'd you get that? Said Gabriel. He reached in his bag and pulled out a copy of Man's Fate by Andre Malraux. It's not leather, but it's not all that worn out either. We are packing heavy tonight, my brother. He held up his hand and his book and raised them both in the air, and then he held up Prez's hand and book, and he said, you see, these are the only real weapons of freedom. By the end of the evening, what had transpired over a few little square cafe tables pulled together was a meeting of the minds of the leaders of the major inner city neighborhoods that included Afro-Americans, whites, and Puerto Ricans. There was more than a major peace pact agreed to. There was a commitment to a commonality of purpose, because if it was not for them being on neutral turf, it probably would not have occurred. It was well beyond midnight, and Prez was starting to feel it. There was hardly anyone left in Mother Blues. We gotta go, said Prez to LD and Kelmel. We gotta get up and go running in the morning. Let's take the day off tomorrow, man. We never take a day off. Hey, I go running in the morning too, said Gabe. Maybe we can run together sometimes. Prez, Lizzie, and JB got up and started walking toward the door. Hold it. What is going on out there? Don't go out there, said Prez. He looked back toward Gabe and his crowd and said, the place is crawling with cops. They all got up and walked over to have a look. They know we're here, said Gabe. I think the girls should go out back. Call to see how it is back there. One of the guys went to the phone booth in the back of the club. There are 3 phone booths on the streets in the 2-block radius from here, said Gabe. We have some of our boys at each one. The guy who went to the payphone came back and said they've got the back alley covered. Okay, listen up, said Gabe. We've been through this so many times before. Everywhere we go, the cops show up. Their aim is to try to provoke us. They are looking for any excuse they can to shoot us. We don't provoke them. We are polite. We obey all their lawful commands, but that is the trick. We will not obey their unlawful commands, and we will not allow them to bully us. So it's a fine line between knowing your rights and not getting killed. Turning to Prez, he said, I suggest you all follow our lead on this. Somebody call some cabs. Let me go and call Fitz and get him down here. He looked around at all the guys. I gotta ask if everybody's clean, you know what I mean. If you're not, go figure it out and get rid of it now. Nobody moved. No shit? Everybody's clean? Gotta love these dudes, you're stronger than you know. Who's Fitz? Prez asked to no one in particular. He heard someone say, a lawyer. After about 10 minutes, a few cabs showed up. Cabs here, let's move, said Gabe. Prez led the way with his arm tightly around Lizzie's waist. He looked back to see where JB and Percival were. He wanted the 4 of them to get in the same cab together. Percival was still back at the table where Prez and Gabe had sat. He called for Percival to hurry. What's wrong with you, man? Prez shouted at Percival as he held JB and Lizzie back from going out the door to wait for Percival. Prez looked out the front of the cab, the front of the club, and all the cops were gathered like a strike force. He wondered if they could even make it to the cab without incident. He glanced back over his shoulder and noticed the book he had given Gabe was on the floor under a table, but he knew Gabe had put it in his bag. There was a bit of shoving. It was Percy. Don't be so goddamn nervous, Percy. Be a fucking man. You got to protect JB if any shit goes down. What the fuck do we have here? A big red-headed cop had placed himself between Prez's group and the cab. He stood right in front of Prez and Lizzie. What's a pretty little white bitch like you doing with a nigger? Haven't you heard, said Prez. The Supreme Court just ruled that interracial marriage is perfectly legal. You need to get up with the times, man. The cop shoved his nightstick into Prez's chest. Please tell me you ain't fucking this little dumbass nigger. Please say you ain't Missy, and I'll let you get in the cab. You're on the wrong side of the law, said Prez. We haven't done anything, officer. Why are you behaving in such a disrespectful manner? Said an extremely nervous Percy. The officer cut his eyes to Percy and said, what a fucked up accent, punk. Hey, where's my bag? Prez heard Gabe say. He looked around and saw Gabe rush back into the club towards the chair where he'd left his bag. Prez was still being shoved backwards by the big red-headed cop who persisted in verbally taunting and abusing him and Lizzie. You don't have a right to put your hands on me, Prez heard himself say. Don't touch me again. Prez finally saw what Lizzie kept looking at. And it was Percy who kept looking across the street. The same dark gray four-door sedan with the same two guys who had given Percy the backpack with the guns that the brick had. They were parked about a block away. He looked back and saw that Gabe now had the bag over his shoulder and was just about to exit the club. Percy also noticed and made a motion like he was scratching the top of his head. Get in, Prez screamed. He pushed Lizzie and JB in ahead of him. Percy managed to jump in the front seat. Just as he was about to get in, he looked around and a bunch of cops emerged from the shadows, rushing towards Gabe. His bag, thought Prez. It's in his bag. I gotta tell him. Wait, let me out. Preston, don't. Come with us. Come with me, said Lizzie. He jumped out, banged on the cab, and just as it was about to leave, all hell broke loose. Gunfire erupted all around them. Bullets zinged at them from every direction. Metal clanged, concrete cratered, and glass shattered. Prez threw himself onto the ground and managed to crawl under a truck. When the shooting finally stopped, Prez raised his head and saw the Puerto Rican fellow who had come with Chi-Chi lying on the ground in a pool of blood. One of the boys from the bricks was leaning against a wall holding his side with blood dripping from his hands. He tried to straighten himself and walk, but staggered and fell. 3 cops pounced on him. Ambulances arrived. He could see a bunch of guys facing a brick wall with a bunch of police watching them, guns drawn. Did we get him? He heard a cop say to another as they walked by the truck he was under. Yeah, we shot that black nigger, but that goddamn spick jumped in the way and took some for him. You mean that fucker Turner ain't dead? Shit, I don't know. Who called those fucking ambulances anyway? I don't know, but his fucking lawyer, that goddamn Fitzgerald, he showed up at about the same time as the ambulances. Maybe somebody should have shot that asshole too. And the ambulance drivers too while we're at it. Grow up, DeMarco. Let's just hope the nigger is dead. If he ain't, we'll have a very unhappy city hall. Fitzgerald waded in. You know who I am, so stand back. Stand back from me, please. Get out of my way. Where's my client? I ask you the whereabouts of my client. Gabriel Turner was found sitting upright against a parked car with 6 to 7 police officers surrounding him. His head hung to one side. He was bleeding from a number of different places. His eyes were shut. Is this your client here, attorney? Looks like he was your client. I don't think that boy's breathing anymore. What do you think, Haley? I believe he may have just gone and expired on us. Fitzgerald bent down and felt for a carotid pulse. Medic, medic, he screamed, he's alive. Press crawled from under the rear of the truck and onto the sidewalk. He stood and didn't see the cab. A rush of relief came over his shoulders and lightened his feet. But as he walked around to the front of the truck, he could see that the cab was still there. It had rolled some car lengths down the street. He ran towards it and could see the driver kneeling on the ground just outside the open door, his head bobbing back and forth as if he was in a lot of pain. JB and Percival were also out of the cab and standing on the curb, JB crying hysterically as she punched and kicked Percival, who kept muttering they weren't supposed to shoot. Prez couldn't see Lizzie. He looked at the cab and the back window was shattered. Someone was in the back seat. He started screaming, JB, is that Lizzie? Is that Lizzie? Get her out. Get her out of there. Just as he rushed the open door, he was grabbed by a cop. Prez broke his grip and opened the door. A deluge of tears rushed down his face as he looked into the cab and saw her. Her body leaned forward, her head against the back of the front seat. Lizzie, Lizzie, screamed Prez. Her hair hung in a matted, blood-soaked tangle around her face. Blood dripped from the tips of her hair and settled into a small puddle at her feet. He could only see one of her eyes, and it was open, looking far away. Her mouth looked as though she was about to say something. Somebody call an ambulance, will you? We need an ambulance, he cried. The red-headed cop rushed over to Prez, and Prez evaded his attempt to grab him. Did you shoot Lizzie, motherfucker? The cop reached for his throat, but he sent the cop to the ground with a powerful kick. Two more cops rushed him, and he started blindly punching and kicking while crying hysterically. He was unaware that news crews had arrived on the scene and that Fitzgerald had one in tow as he rushed over and stood between him and the cop, shouting, "Stop assaulting my client." Fitzgerald stood in front of Prez and said, "Son, whoever you are, stop. You won't bring her back. Son, listen to me. Stop." Prez cried like he had not cried since his father died. The grief gripped his stomach and twisted it so that he began to heave and vomit all over the street. He dropped to his knees and wailed and moaned and held his stomach. Nobody moved, not Fitzgerald, not the cops. His grief was so intense, even a couple of the white cops came up to the attorney and asked who the dead girl was to this racked up nigger. Fitzgerald said to Prez, "Look, they will cuff you and book you. What's your name so I can represent you?" With tears filling his mouth, he managed to say, "Preston Coleman Downs, Jr. Just be calm. Calm down. I'll be down to the station within an hour to get you out. Calm down, okay?" The girl in the cab, who was she? The most beautiful girl you'll ever want to know. Elizabeth Beckert. She's from England. Those are her friends over there. Did you say she's British? Fitzgerald looked around at the horde of cops and said, "I think you boys have just gotten yourself into a bigger jam than you know how to get out of. If I were you, I would tread lightly from here on out. You just killed a British citizen. Who's in charge? Oh, I know. Where is he?" Fitzgerald looked around and walked over and spoke calmly to an officer wearing a police commander badge, who started to argue obnoxiously. Prez heard the attorney use the phrase international incident, and the commander shut up, hung his head, and nodded. Thank you.